Hi, today we're going to do number 20, valid parentheses in JavaScript. So we're giving a input, which is a string, and a string can only be a limited amount of characters, these opening and closing different types of brackets. And now we want to return true if it's a valid string where each opening has a corresponding closing. Otherwise, we return false. So for example, this opening parentheses has a closing one, so we return true. This opening has a closing, this opening has a closing of the same type, and this opening has a closing of the same type, so we return true. However, in this one, this has an opening, and then this doesn't have a closing of the same type, we return false. So there's a couple ways we can do this. The first one is the brute force. So here we can check if the string has a pair, then replace it with empty string. And we have to keep doing this. We do a while loop here. I'll just do with while loop. And then we return if s is empty string. So if we keep removing it until it's an empty string, if everything disappears, like this one we see is a pair, so we remove it. At the end of it, if the string is empty, it's true. Otherwise, if we don't remove it like this, we return false. So the time and space complexity of this is going to be O of n squared, because we're looping through all of this, and then if it has a pair, we remove it, and then we have to keep doing that, keep looping that again until we do all of it. So we loop through all of it, and which is n, and then we have to keep doing it again with the while loop outside to make it O of n squared. And then the space complexity. So space complexity, since strings are immutable, we're going to create a string each time. But even though we create a string each time, at first I would think it would be O of n squared, because we have to keep doing it, keep creating a string n times for every time we loop. But it replaces the current string, so it doesn't multiply. So it's only O of n. It only holds the current string of the s. So how can we improve this? We can use a stack. So we create a stack, and then we have a map of the pairs. And then the trick here is that we do the closing pair as the key, and opening as the value. So by then, if we see this, so then we loop through s. If it is closing pair, we pop from the stack to see if it is a match. Otherwise, if it's opening one, we push it to the stack. If opening pair, we push it. And then we can return at the end length of stack equals 0. For here, the time complexity would be O of n, since we're just looping through s, where n is the length of s, And then the space complexity since we're creating this stack, this map will be a constant, but the stack can keep going as long as the length of n, so it's going to be O of n. So since this has a better time complexity, we're going to go with the stack solution, but I will implement both. So for the stack solution, we create the stack, and then we create a map, or we use the object of the pairs. And we start with the closing ones. Now we loop through S. Okay, and now we check if we have a closing pair. If so, if it's a closing pair, we pop it, and return false if they're not equal to each other. Return. So we can pop it. And then, so we can combine it if the pub doesn't equal what we're looking at. We return false. Otherwise, we push it to the stack. And then we return if the length of stack is equal to 0. So we, I do else, so it doesn't always run it. Great, so we can do it the other way too, the brute force way. So now here we have to do a while loop. So while s dot includes one of this, or s dot includes the other kinds, we replace it with the empty string for each one of them. Great, and then we can just return s equals s dot length 0, or I was going to say equals an empty string. So we have to set it s as a new value instead, which is what I forgot to do. Great, so there you go. So you can either brute force it, where you check if it has a pair of opening and closing it, and you remove it each time, or you can use a stack, and then as you iterate through, if it has an opening pair, you push it to the stack, and then if you have a closing one, you pop off the last value of the stack, see if it has the corresponding pair. If it does, we keep going. If it doesn't, we return false. Thank you.